Nikki, obviously it's early, but, you got a lot of new players out there this year. What are you seeing in terms of how they're kind of coalescing?
Well, today was a bit of a fiasco. I was talking about this on the way in. I actually thought we started really, really well. I think as the practice went along and, you don't have the ability to go lengthy practices in the summer or, during the 4-hour weeks. And so, one of the things I did today was waited to put new stuff in, and history tells me put new stuff in at the beginning while their brains and their legs are still fresh. But part of it was a test. Where are we at? And quite frankly, we're like every other team I've ever coached. When you put new stuff in, it needs to be at the beginning. So they're not as mentally fatigued when they're learning. And so I think we've got a lot of interchangeable parts this year. I think that can be a challenge. One of the challenges is it's one thing in a lot of things we do. If you're a, quote, 4 or 5, which we don't really, you do the same thing. But if you're a 1, 2, or 3, you do something different. So we've got a lot of those swing players that swing from 3 to 4. And that's a challenge. Jaden can play the 1 or the 2 interchangeably, and it's no big deal. Bella's learning to play the 3 and the 4, and that's a bigger challenge because you're not only in one situation you're the screener, in the other situation you're coming off the screen, And so I think, and we've got a number of players that kind of fall in that category. So it's not only new because all of it's new because they're playing different positions and learning different positions. And, I think about even my time in the W as good as Tamika Catchings was, maybe one of the best effort ever. And from an effort perspective, there was probably no one better. And she struggled to ever make the transition from 4 to 3. She just played tough enough and was aggressive enough to be an undersized 4. So it's not easy to do both, but we're pretty determined to make it happen.
How nice is it to have more bodies out there to work with, and does that put an emphasis on you being harder or being able to get through to them a little more early on?
I think it makes accountability easier. We'll start with that. Sometimes it's hard when you don't have enough bodies to even really pull somebody out, whether they're fatigued, whether they make mistakes, things like that. So I think we start with accountability with more numbers. I think obviously we can play at a greater pace. We can add some pressing and some aggressive defensive things. We were actually very good in our defensive efficiency last year, a lot to do with we had really good rim protection. But we didn't have the depth to press and do a lot of different things to be as aggressive and create turnovers. And I think we have the ability to mix up our defenses as a result of that. And so, I think having more bodies gives you a lot of versatility, a lot of different ways to play, a lot of different lineups. I think we can match up with any team. I think we can go big. I think we can go small. And I think we can be equally good. So just a little more in the bag to play with.
Is there anything you saw in practice today that you think is kind of some growing pains that you guys need to work through, obviously?
Oh, Lord.
I heard you talking about missed layups at the beginning.
Well, that was the good part. What are you talking about? I think a lot of it, we talked about listening, that when our legs are tired, our hands and our voices aren't, so, as we get tired, we should still be able to pass and catch the ball. We should still be able to listen, and we should be able to talk. And I think today was a lot of fatigue set in, so we had a lot of fatigue mistakes at the end. We just took some plays for granted. The guys denied us. And so, it just, last year's team looked like this too. Listen Queen didn't know the play the first time we ran it either. And so it took time, and all of a sudden when teams denied us, as the season went along, we understood what all our counters were and how to play into the actions that we have. Right now we're still a little robotic, so we've got to learn how to play. And I told them today, if I call a play for you, don't screw up your own play. You know, I mean, and on top of that, if I call a play because I want to get a shot for Jamie Asbury, like, you know, and her teammates don't set the screens for her, like, that's when she should be mad at them. And I don't like them being mad at each other a lot. But I kind of believe in just teaching the game and getting them to understand the action and how to play in action. So when we do call sets and we want a particular thing, you better only break off the play as if you've got a layup. And then when you take that layup, you better make it, because there's probably a reason I called that play in the first place. So I'm pretty open until you screw up a play that I've called that I think is going to work for a particular reason or a particular player. So we got a lot to work on, but it was the first of 30 practices before that first game.
Nikki, you added a lot of big-time transfers this year. What were you looking for in the portal when you went into it this offseason?
Talent, rebounding, experience. You know, I mean, I think those were the keys. Obviously, we you know, Bella was a part of that top 10 recruiting class that we had in the fall. But when you lose 3 players to the draft and you're Baylor, you're trying to continue to stay at that level. So having a balance, not just of position, but even class and experience, and not being too heavy in one class or the other. So, you know, just trying to balance those classes out. I think we added, you know, rebounding and toughness, and Erica and Dre and Asia, and you know, just, you know, we lost Jordan, and I think Jan is someone that is not that dissimilar to Jordan in terms of her ability to really shoot the basketball. Probably not the downhill scorer that Jordan is, but you know, kind of a consummate point guard type, and wants to get her teammates open, and just is uber positive. And I think that's been good for us.
Who are you looking to for leadership this year? That veteran leadership?
I mean, it's a little bit of, you know, I would say right now the combination is Jaden, Sarah, and Kate. You know, Kate's a fifth-year senior and usually gets stuff right. You know, sometimes looks like an old woman out there, and, you know, wears that back brace around like it's, you know, part of her wardrobe. But I think, you know, Jaden's been in the program for a year. Sarah, you know, obviously a returning all-conference player, and both those guys are ball handlers. And so I think right now, you know, those are probably the 3 that understand the best what we do and kind of why we do it.
Jaden, you were kind of doing a lot of coaching on the floor today, it looked like, just, you know, telling people where to go and that kind of thing. I mean, do you kind of sense that as part of your role this year?
Yeah, I think that's also just something, talking to Coach Nikki and the coaching staff, that's something that they emphasize, of being a leader, and just simply because I don't want the freshmen to ever, like, feel like they don't have anybody to go to, or just the newcomers of everybody coming in. I want them to know that they can ask questions. I always tell them, if you don't know, don't act like it. And I think that's one of the biggest things. They think like, okay, I just have to act like I know. It's okay not to know, and I want to emphasize that to them. And I think that's something that even Sarah was doing. We know Sarah wasn't practicing, but Sarah was really like, hey, you got to do this, you can do that, because Sarah's knowledge for the game, her court vision, everything, I think that's just something that we want to do to help Coach Nikki, so Coach Nikki can focus on what's going on the floor, and we can help on the sidelines.
Jaden, is it weird when you're in practice and you're not passing Alyssa or Queen anymore?
I mean, that's always going to be something that's a change. You know, playing with 2 amazing players like that, it's going to be different. But I think who we have in now, we have more amazing players. Once again, like, I don't feel a drop-off. I feel like we have young talent, and it's exciting. I love it. I love all the questions that they have. I don't think it's weird. I think it's just a change that I'm happy to work with.
Jaden, is there a comfort level for you? I mean, it's weird. You've had 1 year in the system, but I mean, is there a comfort level for you?
Most definitely. I think that's just because Coach Nikki's very clear with what she wants. It's never a mind game. She tells you what it is, and that's it. It's nothing where she beats around the bushes. I have a very high, I hope you agree, I have a very high comfort with her, and I think she has a good comfort with me, to where she tells me what it is. If I have a question, I can ask her. But it's very, I want to say it's easy to play for her, because she doesn't have a hidden agenda. She knows what she wants, and she tells you that. If she knows you have to tell you in a different way than somebody else, she manages to do that.
Obviously, you're new out there. I mean, what's it been like? Just, you know, this is a new level of basketball.
Oh my, it absolutely is. I feel like every single day I've learned something new. Like, I feel like there's people who would come in and they think they know so much. There's not been a single day that I haven't learned something new, whether it's terminology or even something as simple as how my teammate likes a pass off of a certain screen and roll. So it's definitely been a learning curve. There's a lot of talented people here, so just getting acclimated it's been a big change, but I'm loving it so far. So.
Bella, how has that acclimation been? Has it been pretty smooth? Do you obviously being around your teammates and stuff?
I love my teammates. You know, it was so strange because whenever Kyla, Bugs, and I had committed, we all weren't sure who else was going to come in with us. We were like, okay, are we going to have 8 people again? How's this going to go? But even the people who transferred in with us, we're all new. We all are learning and growing within this program under the leadership of Coach Nikki and the staff. But we all really love each other. I feel like we get along really, really well, and it shows out on the court. We're still working on that chemistry and the details, but I think we're going to be really good.
Jaden and Bella as well. Do you feel any type of pressure or maybe to replicate the success of last year's team?
I don't think I want to replicate what the last year's team did. I think we're a new team this year. We have a few of the returners, but I don't want to be the same as last year, to be honest. If we don't have the same pieces as last year, there's no reason to be the same, in my opinion. So I think there's always going to be pressure. I always think there's going to be a target on our back with our name of being Baylor. But I don't feel pressure. I think we just need to come out and be the best that we can as a team, and that's all that matters.
Nikki, last year you kind of inherited the group that you came. This year you kind of have a little bit more of a say in who's bring in. Do you feel more like this year you have the kind of players that you want to make your system work?
Well, first of all, I probably would have recruited Melissa and Queen and Jordan. So I felt, honestly, from the beginning, I think I said last year, sometimes as a new coach, you've got to try to figure out, am I going to, pound square pegs into round holes, or am I going to figure out how to win with the group I've got and then recruit players to the system that I want to play. I said this from the beginning. I inherited really good players that were already good system-type players. I think Queen and Melissa, were players that could screen and roll and really get to the rim. And, so I think we had, already players. I mean, I wouldn't have traded them. But I do think what we were able to get in Bugs and Bella and Asia and Dre, you're talking about players who are probably more position versatile. They give us the ability, we're not doing it yet, but we'll probably do a lot more switching this year, which we just didn't have the capacity to do. Or we would have ended up with, 5-5 guards on bigs all the time. And so, it's why even to begin practice, we had all the guards do certain things and the post do certain things and flipped them and made our guards deny and battle in the post and do some things, because if we're switching 1 through 5, Jaden may end up, and she's going to battle. She might be our strongest person pound for pound in the weight room. So, I actually, these are 2 of our strongest people. But, I just think that, so in some ways, yes, we've added culturally players that I wanted to be around every day, or most days. But I think from a talent perspective, they're talented, but we're a little bit more position versatile, than we were a year ago. And I always, if you don't think I like Queen, you'd be shocked, because look at Kyla out there, she's just a baby version of Queen right now. She can run and rebound and is a little lost, but, when she puts it all together, she's going to have that same kind of rim protection, athleticism. She even has the same crazy move in the post that, I kept trying to get Queen not to do, and I'm already trying to get, Kyla to not do. But it's kind of, so she's kind of like our baby Queen right now.
Dre is smooth out there.
Dre is a, she's like, I hope this is like a compliment, but she's like the old guy at the park that just knows how to play. That just, she can she can be outsized by 4 or 5 inches and just use her legs to get position and finish at the rim. She can pick and pop. She's a really good screener. So yeah, she's that guy like you pick up at the gym for, that can do all the things, but maybe doesn't look like the most athletic or the tallest or the anything, but like if you want to win a basketball game, you draft her, So yeah, that's Dre. She's.
So when Nikki came knocking and wanted you to come to Baylor, what is she like as a saleswoman?
Oh gosh, a saleswoman.
Okay. Coach Nikki came kind of late to the game. She got hired, and I was starting to schedule my visits, and I was like, I can't really say no. It's Baylor, so let me give it a chance. And the first time that I talked to you, I'm pretty sure we were on the phone for almost 3 hours.
Yeah.
And just from then, I was like, okay, the connection I have with this woman is insane. She obviously knows her stuff. She's coached pro, she's coached college before. But just, I think our whole staff really are very personable people and are good people. And that's the type of person that I want to play for, especially since she has so much experience too. I'm like, okay, she can coach me in life and on the court. So I think she's a great saleswoman.
Well, it was funny. Her mom, the first time I called her mom said, I needed to talk to this coach, Nikki, because I couldn't figure out who this coach was that Bella would stay on the phone with for hours at a time when she always hated recruiting calls before that. So, yeah, it's about connection. Connection is important to us. So I think Bella was someone that, she's as much as she's a similar position and they can play together. Like Dariana, wasn't really into the process, didn't spend a lot of time on the phone and Bella needed the connection. She did. Every player is different in terms of what they're looking for and what they need. And I think I knew when I signed her that it wasn't going to end on signing day, that there was a precedent set in terms of what our communication would be like and not from a needs perspective, but every player is different. Every personality is different. What Jaden needs isn't the same thing as what Bella needs. They all just need to feel like you care and that you'll listen and that they've got your back. And so, it's not the same with every player, but I want them to feel the same way.
Nikki, you didn't coach Brittney Griner, but obviously what she means to women's basketball, what she means to Baylor, you've talked about it before, but how much does her situation kind of weigh on you guys?
Wow. You guys know, those that have been around me know I get pretty emotional. I think BG, first of all, is human first, and I think this is a human rights issue. No one's saying she didn't make a mistake. None of us are perfect, but I guess I would want to know if I did something and was stuck in a foreign country and what it was, what it wasn't. I think we all know that 10 years is a long time. And, I see her as a mother, as a sister, as a spouse, as a daughter, as an unbelievable ambassador for the game of basketball. I think there are people that have said, she kneeled. We can argue about kneeling or not kneeling all day long. Brittney Griner has worn that USA across her chest and won gold medals for this company or for this country. She's represented Baylor. I know. I want to say it was Bella told me she was one of her first idols, a big part of why she was Baylor. And I absolutely know that there was a championship here before BG, but she made Baylor a household name, and I didn't coach her, but I coached against her a lot. I game planned for her, and when you spend a summer in the bubble at IMG, you get to know everybody. And she was one of the first people to reach out to me when I got this job. And she was super excited about me getting the job, about coming, us getting her back here. The goal is to get her jersey retired and hanging in the rafters. And so I just think about what it would be like to be away from my family for over 200 days. So that's to me first and foremost. Like, I think this is a humanitarian thing. We can argue if we want about whether what she did is grounds for a trade for an arms dealer. Like, I'm not, I think there's a lot of arguments in play. I think what isn't in play, in my mind, is that we shouldn't be doing everything in our power to get Brittney home.
Will y'all honor her in any way this year? Is there any plans in place to kind of put something?
I think we're talking about it. We were already talking about it last year. We've talked about doing it as a part of, the new arena. And do we just basically, it's been a big deal to do it right by her. I've been in contact with her agent since I got the job, and know Kagawa Colas well. And so, yeah, I think BG's family. Like, she's Baylor family. So to me, anything we can do to help her and her family is important.
You mentioned kind of like there's no argument with the kind of person that she is, despite, if she did something wrong. Obviously, I'm sure you saw Kim decline to comment today, and you don't have to speak on that, but.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I was about to say.
but does that bother you, like not her remarks, but just when people kind of question her character over this?
Yes.
Her legacy?
Yeah, it does. I think it's easy to question people you don't know, and you don't know their situation, and we can't pretend to know if what was said in the court system was real or just part of the court system. Like, it's no different than people are told by lawyers over here to plead guilty because of certain things in the United States in the court system. So it's not my job to judge, quite frankly. I don't see it as my job. I think as a Christian, it's to give grace. It's to love one another. And, knowing BG, like knowing her, being around her, she's a big kid. To know her is to love her. Honestly, like she just is one of those people that radiates joy, that would give you a high five or a hug. So yeah, I think this is about her being, if it was, I think it's so easy to say when it's someone you don't know. But would everyone be saying the same thing if it was their sister? I think they might feel differently. And that's not me saying that what she did was or wasn't wrong. Like, it's also not my job to comment on that, quite frankly.
Nikki, turning back to this year, I know the way that last season kind of ended left a bad taste. What kind of goals have you set for this year, and how much does the way that everything can be a motivator for you guys?
I don't like to talk a lot about the last year. I think that in some ways it does a disservice to this year's team and last year's team. Like, I think every year is unique. I can tell you that my freshman year I played at Purdue, we went to the Final Four, and we had every single player on our team return. We had no seniors that year. And so it was kind of this, I almost think we got comfortable with the run-it-back mentality because we thought we were going to be good because we were good and we had everybody back and everyone was a year older. And then we also had a couple really good freshmen. And, we ended Stanford's run to go to the Final Four my freshman year. They ended our run to go to the Final Four my sophomore year. So I look at every year as kind of a new beginning. And my job is to, like, kind of fit the pieces together that we've got. Do I think that ESPN just put our West Virginia game on TV because South Dakota beat us? Yeah, maybe. I think that game becomes a little more interesting. Not that any conference game doesn't matter to us, but the fact that Coach Dawn is there now and I'm sure we're going to get a heavy dose of that system that bothered us. So I think what bothers me last year is just that I felt like that team was peaking at the right time, that they had the right pieces. We were playing really good basketball. Even in the Texas game and the conference championship, Liz going down impacted us. Her plus-minus when she was on the court was positive. So even though she wasn't down for 20 minutes, she was down just long enough in a game like that to potentially be a difference maker. I think that Sarah playing with a broken wrist the last 5 weeks of the season impacted us tremendously. She didn't practice. She didn't shoot. We had her in a brace every moment that she wasn't in practice. And so, but I think this team is different. It's very different. And I think our expectations are the same. Like when you ask her about, like, did it leave a bad taste? Did the expectations, is there pressure? I don't think you put on a Baylor uniform and not feel pressure. I know I didn't take this job and expect to not feel pressure. I mean, nobody wants to be a part of the team that breaks the streak of conference championships. Like, I think we wear that, And so the idea is, like, are you competing like a champion in practice every day? Are you doing what it takes to hang another banner? Because I was in DeSoto's practice after winning a couple a couple state championships, and listening to her tell her, like, 5 little freshman starters, like, they didn't hang that banner by talking about it on social media. Like, you're going to have to show that, you're worthy of putting on a DeSoto uniform. And I think for our players, they do feel that pressure. But would you rather play for a place with no expectations? Like, I think that's why they came here, because they want to compete for championships. So, I mean, our goals are the same. It's just going to look different, I think, with the personnel we've got. And some things are going to be the same, and some things are going to be really different.
Jaden and Bella, what kind of coach is Coach Nikki? How does she make you a better player and person, both of you?
Coach Nikki, I kind of look at her, she's my mom, my basketball mom. I just want to run through a brick wall for her. She knows how to motivate you. She cares. I think that's the most important part about it. It's not a business to her. Like, yes, you want to win, but she cares about you as a person. And if you care about me as a person and I'm not just a basketball player to you, I'm going to do anything for you. It's not that she makes me. She wants it to where, like, I'm a successful person, not just in basketball, so I want to do anything for her. Obviously, I don't want to make her mad. I'm going to do anything to try to just keep us off that line and keep her getting angry. But she's just a coach, like, she knows how to work with each and every one of us. Like how she was talking about, I need something different than Bella. She's a different coach for each one of us, to where we do whatever it takes to be a great team, a great individual for her. I don't know, that's just like my second mom, and I'd do anything for this lady.
Oh, honestly, I feel the exact same way. Like I said before, just the relationship thing was huge for me. And seeing a woman of faith who has the character that she has, like, I want to be like this one day. I want to be able to, I don't know if I want to coach. I don't know if I can do what you do. But just the way she handles us with so much grace and compassion, but at the same time puts her foot down and it's like, okay, I need you guys to understand this. We're going to do things the right way so that we can be successful. And then also to touch on what Jaden said, too, about how she's different with each and every person, because all of our relationships are different. Like, I don't think there's a single other coach that I know that does things the way that she does. So
There isn't.
Thanks, ladies.
Oh, thanks.
thanks. Tutoring time.